Hello and welcome to my channel and also my first official YouTube video. My name is Xochitl, and for the purpose of this channel, I will go by Uarhiiti.Tsitsiti, which in Purepecha means woman flower, and my actual name, which is in Nahuatl, which is another indigenous language from Mexico, is it means flowers. So woman flower, it makes sense. So welcome to my channel. I hope that this video doesn't get cut off. This is my 5th time trying to record this video, so I'm just gonna go with it. It's gonna be a rough ride, but I'll get better hopefully as time continues and I practice this more. Today I wanted to come on and talk to you all about some I don't know what to call them, downloads, some thoughts that have just been coming up or that came up for me last week, and that is that authentic connection with self is needed to connect to your greatness or to align with your greatness. And that got prompted by a previous thought, which was don't wait to be chosen and choose yourself and decide to be happy for yourself and stop living for others and start living for yourself. And why these things got prompted was because I was thinking a lot about the pick-me energy and being in pick-me energy. For me, all of this is fairly new as well. Being able to choose myself is fairly new as well. It's a new concept for me and a new level of understanding. If you're like me and perhaps intellectually understand these things or these concepts, but maybe you're not at the point yet where you could start integrating these concepts into your life or these belief systems, then this is the video for you. Because I've been there and I feel like I've recently just been able to move through into the place that I am now, which is to be able to choose myself, and in which I actually do want happiness for myself. So, how did all of these things come together, right? These concepts of connecting with your authentic self in order to connect with your greatness and moving out of pick-me energy to choosing yourself. Last week or week and a half, I had a meeting with an employer for a position or to talk about a position that I did not get, even though I was very highly qualified for the position. And it was a graduate student position because I'm in grad school. And in the beginning, when I found out that I did not receive the position, I was very, very, very shocked. I was very hurt. It was a huge blow to my ego, to my nervous system, of course, because being in grad school is expensive and funding is very scarce. And I do not come from wealth, at least not that type of wealth. I don't come from financial wealth, and nor do I have it. I actually lack a lot of basic support that even people on their day-to-day take for granted, which is even having parents to talk to ask for advice. I don't have a community. I don't have a support system. And it is very difficult to navigate grad school in the circumstances that I'm in, right? Which is on my own. And So you can understand why not getting this position was such a huge blow to my current reality. And I took some time to regulate myself, and then I reached out to the employer to set up this meeting. And the meeting was actually extremely successful and extremely nourishing. And I believe that is because I have been doing that internal work to understand myself and to learn how to take care of myself, and to finally build a support system internally within myself that allows me to make mistakes, that allows me to fail, and that allows me to deal with rejection, which for most of my life, I have not been in that energy. For most of my life, I have been guided by the parts of me that are critical, and by the parts of me that are controlling, because I want to control my external reality in order for me to be okay, right? And that's what our managers do. And then the critic, as you can imagine, goes around criticizing the self. And inherently, these parts are there, and they have been there because their actual purpose is to protect us, right? It seems really harsh to us, the way that we talk to ourselves, how these parts want to control situations and people. But I don't want that for you all, after watching this video, to start trying to suppress and criticize your critics and your managers. That's not what this video is for. This video is for you to understand what are these different parts and what are their roles, and how does that relate to moving towards my greatness, towards that place within my life, within your life, that you are feeling like that badass, in Spanish we say chingona, person that you are, right? Chingon, chingona, chingonex that you are. So for me, in order to have the outcome that I had for this meeting, it required months of me doing internal work, self-regulating, and learning about my neurodivergence, in order for me to be at the point where I was able to handle that rejection gracefully and confidently, and standing in my power. And you're probably like, that sounds great. I'm not there, and how do I do that? And I remember when I was in your position, in your place, I would get frustrated also with people who would give kind of generalized information of just believing yourself, right? Just love yourself, right? Just be happy, right? Or even just saying choose yourself. It's really hard to take that giant leap towards that place of believing in yourself, or of self-love, when you're so confused even about yourself, when you don't really even have a relationship with self. So that's what this video is about. So we're gonna go forward into the next part, which is, and then I just wanted to say another thing about your managers and your critics. This language that I'm using comes from a book called No Bad Parts, where it talks about parts therapy. I am not a psychologist, licensed anything, or certified anything, at least not in psychology. So this is not a video for you to diagnose yourself, or I don't know. I'm not trying, none of that. I am just here sharing my experience and sharing knowledge that I have gained from reading this book, and how I have applied it in my life, and then how it has helped me feel more confident and grounded within myself. So that's the disclaimer I wanted to say. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how these parts, right, your critics and your managers, end up being the guiding system, the guiding parts, the dominant guiding parts within yourself. And that is because subconsciously we don't trust ourselves, and and also because we are on survival, and those parts, all they really want is for us to be okay and to survive within this system, right? And that's why I'm saying I don't want you to go take away from this video that you have to suppress anything, right? And a lot of the times when we talk about self-sabotage, which I'm starting to move away from that term, is because there are subconscious parts of ourselves that want to come out in a certain situation because they feel that a boundary has been crossed, or they feel like they're being disrespected in some way, or these parts of us are being triggered. But our managers and our critics have done a really good job of suppressing those parts of ourselves so that we don't deal with them, right? Because they're scared that if that inner child within you that is wounded tries to navigate life at your job, that you're going to get fired, and then it's going to impact your ability to survive, right? It's going to impact your ability to take care of yourself. So that is why these parts of us come out. And at the same time, we have to learn to actually integrate those and first of all, identify and then integrate those parts of ourselves that our managers and our critics are trying to suppress. Is it the inner child, the wounded inner child? Is it an angry teenager? Is it anything? Start asking yourself these questions. What are those parts of myself? For me, it was a child that felt genuinely unloved and genuinely unworthy of love. So I was going around wanting people to pick me, wanting people to see the greatness in me and then have them pick me, instead of me doing the work to realize the greatness in myself. Because that would have required, and it did require, a lot of really hard work. And that's another thing. I don't want to come here and say, do 10 chaturangas and meditate for 10 minutes. And no, it's hard work. I mean, yes, do all of those things because they help regulate your nervous system. But to do that, to get to that point of your greatness, it does require a serious conversation with yourself, a serious conversation with yourselves, and getting to know yourself and getting to know those parts of you that make you uncomfortable, that you have been suppressing, that make you feel embarrassed about yourself and make you feel icky about yourself. Those are the parts that you need to look at, and those are the parts that you need to start building relationship with, and also giving them space to exist, because a lot of these parts of ourselves are petrified within a certain age and haven't been able to fully develop into their adult versions, which in their adult versions, they are able to help us at the age that we're in now, right? But they're not able to right now because they're petrified and wounded. So when you're able to give those parts of yourself space to exist, space to be, then those parts can actually relax a little bit and start trusting you and letting you in and confiding in you and allowing you to step in and be the leader of the parts inside of you, of your wholeness, right? So I'm at a point where I'm getting it, right? I'm implementing it, like I said, for most of my 20s and my early 30s, which is up until recently. I'm still in my early 30s, but up until recently, I have been in this pick-me energy within my romantic relationships, within my career, with my family, and within academia. And when you are in this energy, you will try to suppress all the parts of you, like I was saying, that you don't like in order to be chosen, because inherently you feel that if you were to be your authentic self, if you were to allow those icky, uncomfortable parts of you to be shown, then you won't get chosen, right? Then you won't get picked, whether it's by a romantic interest or by your career or by your friends even. I still experience myself putting myself in pick-me energy for my friends, because as a neurodivergent person, it's very difficult to balance my need for time alone, because I have a nervous system that gets overwhelmed really quickly, and my need for community and friendship. And it's a really difficult thing that I'm constantly dealing with and still learning from. So if you have any tips, please feel free to share. So going back into the position that I didn't get, like I said, funding in academia is very difficult. And from what I've noticed within my time in academia, which I still am, is that a lot of environmental positions and environmental justice positions are still going to predominantly white folk, and also people of color who are white passing, and or who have assimilated to that culture, or that are more know how to navigate that space, institutions a lot better. And I am not one of those people. My parents did not this is my dog. Yauks. My parents did not go to school. They don't have more than a 5th grade education. No one in my family, siblings, uncles, aunts, has gone to university, has gotten their master's degree, has attained higher education. So it's been really difficult for me navigating these spaces. Like I've said, I grew up in the lower economic level my whole life, still am, and my parents never made it or obtained the American dream as other people who also came from Mexico might have. There's some parents that, or some people's parents that came here and, you know, were able to get a house, were able to, you know, work really hard and get a house and go to, and like send their kids to school. And that was not my case. My parents did work really hard, but because of generational trauma and lack of mental health resources, my parents actually had a very tragic life and have a very tragic life. And it maybe one day I'll talk about it here, maybe not. But it's, like I mentioned before, it's really difficult to navigate and be in academia without any of these resources, right? So it was very difficult to accept that I didn't get this job, and also because I'm so close to finishing, that it just almost felt like I got pushed one step back because I didn't get this position. And I've often felt within my life that I have been dug 6 feet under before I could even participate in the world, in this current reality, right? Which is capitalistic in a white society, a white culture society. And it's definitely not something that I want to perpetuate or live within. So it's been very, very difficult for me to go through all of this, right? The untangling of an understanding of colonial generational trauma, how colonization has impacted my family and my ancestry, my bloodline, and also living currently within systemic oppression, feeling it on a daily basis, especially at a predominantly white institution that I'm in, and at the same time living in the midst of witnessing an ongoing genocide. And all of these things have kind of interwoven into, you know, this moment in time for me. So it has been a lot to navigate through, but I have found that connecting to myself and learning to regulate myself and learning about myself has given me the tools to be able to keep going, whether that's in academia, doing my research, or also as a person who, although I feel so disconnected from people, who is still doing their best to use my voice to speak up about this genocide. And I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I promise that it's connected in that it's really difficult because, you know, not getting this position, trying to get myself into the workforce because, or even be in academia, because I'm trying to compete with people who generationally are way ahead of me. Even if they are people of color, they're maybe their great grandparents but have owned property or have property or were able to buy property, and maybe their, you know, parents were able to go to undergrad or even go to grad school or get a degree. Or maybe if they didn't, they were able to work they got lucky and were able to find a really good job. And that's not the situation that I'm in. So it has been really difficult to do all of this work from the past, present, and in order for me to have a better future. And sorry, I have notes. And at the same time, while dealing with my own emotional wounds, right? My own distinct type of wounding in the way that trauma lives within me, right? And especially as someone who, like I might have mentioned in this video, now I'm getting all of them confused into one, that I am neurodivergent. As far as I know, ADHD and complex PTSD, which trauma and complex trauma does impact your brain development. So that's why it's considered a neurodivergence. And where am I? So I think a lot of times within academia, within my career, just within my existence, I have felt like an alien, like I'm here, but also feeling like I don't belong in this time, in this reality. And I think that's part of it, is because I'm not supposed to uphold and abide by white supremacy, and I don't want to perpetuate capitalism and the exploitation of people, of labor, of their labor, and of land. And I just don't believe that I was born into this world to perpetuate that. And, benefiting from it is not something that interests me. I just want to be happy. I just want to feel good within myself. And I want to be able to experience life and be of service to the communities of color that I care about. So, ADHD. Going back to the message about picking yourself, especially when you push your parts of yourself, push parts of yourself down in order to be accepted by the society, in order to get a job, in order to survive. It's really hard to connect with yourself then, because survival is all you know, because your main focus is surviving. And I have been, still am in that mentality sometimes, in that space. But if you are brave enough to explore, to meet those parts of you that make you feel icky, and notice them with curiosity, then something really wonderful might happen. One sec, my dog wants to get out. What are you doing? Go. Okay. So you might be then you'll be able to meet yourself with curiosity, right? You let these parts of you have a space within you to actually exist, as opposed to you kind of gaslighting yourself and suppressing those feelings. And then from there, I would say, or the next step that I took from there was starting to build a support system, an internal support system. And the internal support system is important, because if you don't have this internal support system, you're not able to kind of buffer the shocks of failure, the shocks of making a mistake, the shocks of being rejected. So building that internal community of support allows you to meet your mistakes with compassion, come to your aid when faced with rejection, or when you feel like you failed at something. That internal community is then able to come in and take care of you, as opposed to, right, if we're navigating from our managers and our critics, then it just becomes scary to even take that risk, to make a mistake, right, to fail. And I've been in that energy for a long time too, where if I made an error, if I made a mistake, it was probably like the worst thing ever. Even in something like coding, right? Like I wouldn't delete something because I was scared I was going to make a big mistake. And right when you're navigating through that, it's really difficult for you then to go after your dreams, because your dreams are way up here, right? You set them on a very high pedestal, and it's difficult for you to move to take the steps to move towards your dreams and your goals, because it's too high risk, right? It's way scarier, because you haven't allowed yourself to make these little mistakes that are lower risk, that your support system can then come and take care of. So that's the next step, right? First step is identify these parts of yourself, get to know them, allow them to exist, allow them to grow, allow them to develop. Yes, it's going to take time, but it's worth it. Next step is starting to create your support systems. And the support system, it's going to have parts of you that want you to be happy, parts of you that want you to succeed. It's going to have parts of you that want you to be in healthy relationships. It's going to be parts of you that see you with compassion, that see you through the eyes of love. And those parts of you are so important, because when you, like I said, when you are reaching for that next step, whatever it is within your life, and maybe you make a mistake, which is totally necessary in the process of going towards greatness and very human. I feel like no one tells us enough that you learn through your mistakes, so make mistakes. So it's really important to have that internal family, or that internal community within yourself of cheerleaders, of parts of you that want to see you succeed, and that they're the ones who come out whenever these uncomfortable moments and situations happen, like being rejected from a job. And then I would say that the third step is then asking your managers and your critics to take a step back. And it's very, very important, because that requires trust within yourself, and trust, right? Once you have this internal community built, trust within that community of parts of you, and then doing something to take a risk, right? Putting yourself in a situation that makes you uncomfortable, right? And for me, it was being able to go to this meeting with this employer and go there with a purpose, which was to learn from this experience. And of course, I was nervous. I'm a human. I was nervous. I, before would have had a bunch of thoughts going through my head, taking things personally. And in the beginning I did, but I gave myself enough time so that I could regulate and prepare for this meeting. Because when I prepare, I feel more confident. And because I prepared for the meeting, I was feeling grounded within myself. And the meeting was actually really successful. And like I said, it was very nourishing, and I was able to take a lot away from this. And I was even able to receive the praise that the employer gave me, which was that they really respected my work, which older me would have never even thought of my accomplishments, right? It would have just thought about the mistakes that I made and how I could have done better and what I have to do next time, and even being scared of applying for another job in the future. But instead, I, was open and receptive to receiving that message of someone telling me they respect my work, and coming out of that being like, I need to uplift my work a little bit more, right? I need to be proud of myself for the work that I have done. And it has taken a lot for me to get to that point. But I'm here to say that it's not impossible. And I was really happy because I left that meeting feeling really good, feeling really confident. And also I know that the employer felt good because I didn't act with resentment towards them, if that makes sense. And let me see, I'm almost done. So that's why it's really important to, take these steps to calm down your nervous system, to learn about yourself, to really connect and get to know the community that's inside of you, good and bad, all of it. And I don't even like saying good or bad, but all the parts of you, and to start learning how to incorporate these parts and start creating from those parts a community that wants to see you succeed, that wants to see you happy, and that wants you to be in your greatness. And I'm just here to say that it's possible. I went my whole life thinking that I was destined to continue to suffer, to continue to be miserable my whole life, to be alone my whole life. And I'm finally in a place, in a space within myself, which is the most important part, in which I am not seeking people's validation, in which I am not moving with pick me energy, and I have chosen myself, and I have chosen to give myself a good life, and that starts with me caring about myself. Start getting to know myself so then I know who I am and how I act and how to take better care of my being. And because I have decided to choose myself, it has already paid off in the sense that I'm able to take other bumps in my life with grace and with a different energy than I did even 4 months ago. So from what I've shared with you all, I have had a really challenging life, and I have been in a very negative space my whole life. Even people who might have known me a year ago, 2 years ago, and definitely 10 years ago would have said, Xochitl is not a nice person. She's negative. She's always angry. And yes, all of those things are correct about me, and even more. I have been angry, and I still am, and rightfully so. We live in such a harmful reality, and in a country that that goes around the world killing people and stealing natural resources for their own benefit. And I'm not one of the souls and spirits in this world that can just accept that. So I have a lot to be angry about because colonialism has impacted my whole lineage. And of course I'm angry about that, and because it still continues to impact me as well. So all of this being said is that even with all of that, I still believe in my joy. I still believe in my happiness. I believe that I am going, and that I am already stepping into a life of well-being, into a life of right relationship, and that I hope that one day you all can connect with the being that you were gifted, because this being is a gift. I don't belong to myself. This, who you see, is not even who you think I might be. This is a being that was gifted to me by spirit. So even that just takes some responsibility from me on being so hard with myself, and instead getting to know myself. And that allows me to actually enjoy life and enjoy my time here. And I just want to say that it's possible. It's possible for you if you have live with trauma your whole life, if you have lived through hardship your whole life, and you're trying to change the course of your life, please know that it's possible, and please know that you can feel that possibility within yourself. And already this video is really long, so I'm gonna stop it there. And I just want to say that I hope that me sharing what I've learned on my journey helps somebody on their path. And yeah, I hope this is beneficial to somebody. Good night.